And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to get to the news. The U.S. attacked Venezuela over the weekend and captured Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife. So just as I thought, Trump and I had very different New Year's resolutions. At least he did his. The White House released photos over the weekend showing President Trump watching the U.S. military strikes on Venezuela from a room in Mar-a-Lago. Is that a room? It's just a bunch of black curtains. That looks like where they keep Stephen Miller until the sun goes down. When asked yesterday if he's considering U.S. military operations against Colombia after the capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, President Trump told reporters, quote, "That sounds good to me." All right, so maybe reporters should stop suggesting stuff to him. President Trump, are you considering launching a nuclear strike against the sun? Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you. During a press conference over the weekend, President Trump announced that the U.S. military has seized the president of Venezuela and added the U.S. will temporarily, quote, run the country. What are you talking about? We can't even run our country. We had to invent GoFundMe so people could get root canals. The U.S. trying to run another country is like a coke addict trying to run a rehab center. We're bringing a lot of energy and no relevant experience. The White House recently provided an analysis of President Trump's EKG to the Wall Street Journal, which claimed President Trump's cardiac age is that of a 65-year-old. A 65-year-old dog? And they were like, yeah. You got us. We didn't think you'd ask a follow-up. like a 400-year-old man. While speaking to reporters yesterday aboard Air Force One, President Trump said that Elon Musk is, quote, 80% super genius and 20% he makes mistakes. And frankly, I'm just amazed Trump picked numbers that add up to 100. President Trump hosted a New Year's Eve party last week at Mar-a-Lago featuring a performance from rapper Vanilla Ice. What year were you celebrating? 1990, Happy New Year, everybody. I got you all snap bracelets. While speaking to reporters yesterday on Air Force One, President Trump called Colombian President Gustavo Petro a, quote, sick man who likes making cocaine. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but maybe he'd try some? New York Mayor Zohran Mamdani rode the subway to work on Friday. On his first full day as mayor, said Mamdani, sorry I'm late. McDonald's is facing a new federal class action lawsuit that accuses the fast food chain of falsely claiming its McRib sandwich contains real pork rib meat when it's actually made of restructured shoulder, heart, tripe, and scalded stomach. Yeah, but people don't get as excited when you say the McStomach is back. That's right, McDonald's is facing a lawsuit that accuses them of falsely claiming its McRib sandwich contains real pork rib meat. But come on, did anyone really believe it did? I got more bad news for you. These aren't French. And finally, a 535-pound bluefin tuna sold today at auction in Tokyo Fish Market for a record $3.2 million. It's also the first auction ever attended by a wealthy orca. That's exactly what I wanted him to look like. In a post today on Truth Social, President Trump said, quote, the USA markets just hit another all-time high, all of them. Thank you, Mr. Tariff. Oh, no. Does he think the tariffs are people? I just had dinner with Dave and Julie Tariff. Very nice. They paid for everything. In a new interview, President Trump said that Venezuela will not have new elections in the next 30 days and added, quote, we have to fix the country first. I don't know. I think it's going to take longer than 30 days to build them a new ballroom. According to a new poll, 44% of Republicans would support amending the Constitution to allow President Trump to seek a third term, while the other 56% said he's only on his second term? While speaking today to House Republicans, President Trump said that he wouldn't say that he wants to cancel the election because, quote, the fake news will say he's a dictator. Well, if you cancel the elections, it won't be fake news. At that point, the dictionary will call you a dictator. President Trump also told House Republicans they have to win the midterms because, quote, if we don't win the midterms, they'll find a reason to impeach me. Of course, the challenge isn't finding one, it's picking one. After Minnesota Governor Tim Walz announced yesterday that he will not run for re-election, President Trump accused Walz of stealing taxpayer dollars. Him? Yeah. That must be how he gets all those fancy clothes. The only thing this man is stealing is the blue ribbon at the county fair. Today was the 5th anniversary of the January 6th Capitol attack. This news first reported by The Cake in Fox News' break room. In a post yesterday on Truth Social, President Trump repeated his recommendation to pregnant women to avoid taking Tylenol. All right, well, if you don't want people taking Tylenol, just stop talking. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting voted yesterday to dissolve itself, which will cut off a major funding source for NPR, PBS, and hundreds of local radio and TV stations. Things are so bad that Oscar had to get roommates. I never quite know what we're going to expect when we make a bad news joke about Sesame Street. New York's MTA recently reported that since the start of Manhattan's congestion pricing program, air pollution in Midtown has decreased by 22%, and it's great because now you can really smell the urine. And finally, the Wall Street Journal recently published a profile on the Detroit Ford Motors employee who came up with the idea to put an arrow on the dashboard of a car indicating which side the tank is on. It must be a nice feeling to know you've accomplished more than the President of the United States. President Trump announced yesterday in a social media post that Venezuela will turn over between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. and added, quote, this oil will be sold at its market price and that money will be controlled by me. As for what he'll do with that money, there will be signs. According to a new report, experts on Greenland security believe that U.S. forces could take control of the island's capital city, quote, in half an hour or less. Of course, it'll take us all a lot longer to name Greenland's capital city. What is it? Icetown? Greenland City? The Justice Department said in a court filing this week that there are more than 2 million files related to Jeffrey Epstein that have not been released and have to be reviewed to ensure victim privacy, specifically this victim. While speaking yesterday to House Republicans, President Trump said he's, quote, always had a natural business instinct. Dude, you sold steaks at the Sharper Image. I'm pretty sure that's where the idea of a cognitive test first came up. During the same speech, President Trump said, quote, nobody ever had to suffer like I did. Oh, come on. None of us can get breakfast after 10:30. President Trump also called Democrats violent and vicious people. You said that on January 6th? I don't think this was about the price of Hamilton tickets. The board of Warner Brothers Discovery today unanimously recommended the shareholders reject a hostile takeover offer from Paramount Skydance and added, quote, we have a signed merger agreement with Netflix. And once Netflix has you signed up, it's impossible to get out of it. President Trump said this week on Truth Social that parents should spread out their children's vaccine schedule over 5 separate doctor's appointments. Ah, yes, that ought to appeal to Americans. More visits to the pediatrician. Why don't you just tell us to visit the DMV 5 separate times and drive your approval ratings right to 0? The CDC reported this week that at least 11 million people have become sick with the flu this season. 11,026,000 if you count the subway car I was on this morning. A Florida man was arrested recently after he allegedly stole $1,000 from BJ's Meat Market while completely naked, except for a face mask. Dude, you should have known it's Florida. It's illegal to wear a face mask. And finally, a Michigan man recently dropped an engagement ring through the grates of a bridge while proposing to his girlfriend. On the bright side, he doesn't need it anymore. The Trump administration yesterday released new dietary guidelines. Oh yeah, put him in charge of it. We're about to get real loose on the definition of eggs. That's right. The Trump administration released new dietary guidelines that flips the food pyramid. Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth unveiled a drink pyramid. President Trump called on the U.S. yesterday to boost military spending in 2027 by more than 50% to $1.5 trillion. So it sounds like he's planning to go in and take that Nobel Peace Prize by force. President Trump was set to take a photo with U.S. attorneys today at the White House, but as usual, Giuliani misunderstood.
Well, no, it's definitely white.
86-year-old Democratic Congressman Steny Hoyer announced today that he will not seek re-election. That's probably for the best. A good rule of thumb is, if no one else on earth has your first name, you're too old for the job. You know what nobody's ever said? Which Steny? During an Oval Office interview last night with the New York Times, President Trump said that he expects the U.S. will be running Venezuela for years, or at least until it's on E. Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s cell phone went off yesterday during the White House press briefing, and his ringtone was a duck quacking. Maybe not the best ringtone for a guy pushing phony medical advice. Quack, quack. Oh, that's me. Yeah, we know. We know who the quack, quack is. In a new episode of his podcast, Kansas City Chiefs star Travis Kelce said that he won't make a decision about retirement for a month and added that he's, quote, just being a regular human for a couple of weeks. You know, a regular human who's engaged to Taylor Swift and contemplating retirement at 36. Just regular dude stuff. Former NFL player Matt Khalil has filed a lawsuit against his ex-wife that claims her public comments about his penis were an invasion of privacy and subjected him to unwanted attention. This'll help. There's no punchline, by the way. I'm just waiting for everyone at home to finish Googling Matt Khalil penis. If you're wondering which way it trends, he brought it up. Finally, the fast food chain Taco Bell today unveiled the Volcano Quesarito, which is made with beef burrito wrapped in a quesadilla filled with cheese, nacho sauce, and its new volcano sauce, and then later, you'll make your own lava. That was the monologue, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us.